Local racing prodigy Inigo Anton turned to e-motorsports after the COVID-19 pandemic nipped the 2020 Philippine motorsports in the bud. Race weekend again features the 2019 Autocross champion as he competes in the 2021 e-racing Grand Prix, as well as other local e-racing events. Teenage phenom Inigo Anton was a rising star in local grassroots motorsports when the COVID-19 pandemic shut down the 2020 motorsport season just as it was beginning. At the tender age of 15, Inigo, son of veteran racer and champion Carlos Anton, was already the overall champion of the 2019 Philippine Autocross Championship Series and was set to defend the title in 2020. Locked down at home and with no racing going on, it was inevitable for Inigo to turn to virtual racing. And in 2020, he found himself competing in local and regional sim racing events. There was the race for frontliners organized by Tuason Racing, in which he ended up champion. And then there was the e-racing Grand Prix, a new regional sim racing event hosted by former F1 race driver Alex Yung. How did Inigo Anton get into e-racing?
I didn't really know what to expect when I first joined ERGP. Actually, before that, I wasn't really a competitive sim racer. I just joined it for the fun of it and not really compete in events and tournaments. But when the lockdown happened and there were many events coming up, I was actually invited to one of the racing events here in the Philippines by Oyi Aquino. And it's a funny story because he actually put a bounty on one of our top sim racers here, Dal Brady, that if you could beat him, then you get a cash prize. So, coming into it, I had nothing to lose, and since there was a lot of downtime, no real racing, might as well join it. And I was surprised that I was actually able to win it. So I saw that, there might be a future for me here in sim racing.
ERGP founder Alex Yung also saw the young Inigo Anton had a future in sim racing.
When ERGP was just starting, there wasn't as much of us, so there's only 2 classes, gold and silver. But from there, from my first time joining, I tried to join because we have a leaderboard and the top 20 of each class will be able to race on that weekend. So knowing me, I just, it's my first time joining a competitive sim racing. I went to silver and set a time there, and I was one of the quick guys. But Alex Yung, later that night after the leaderboard ended, he called me up and said that he says that I have the pace and I think that you'll do really well in gold and you should just make the move already to gold. So that's what I did.
Also in 2020, Inigo competed in the E1 Championship, another international sim racing event organized by Alex Yung. The E1 Championship simulates formula racing with teams of 2 drivers each battling on iconic racing circuits with a challenge involving not only driving skills but also race car setup and strategy for tire wear.
So ERGP and E1 are hosted again by Alex Yung, former Formula 1 driver, of course. So the process of which the races run is pretty similar. The main difference though is that it's more of a team game right now. With ERGP, it is an event that you can just go solo by yourself. Solo, and you just go into it because first, there's no setup, and second, there's really no race strategy that can happen. So in ERGP, it's a matter of who's the quickest driver at most, So when it comes to E1, we have a team which does setup and does race strategies all the time. So in E1, it's more time consuming. It's more of a team game, team strategy. Not to mention that there's also 2 drivers per team. So there's also a team championship involved in it.
With no real local racing in the first half of 2021, Inigo competed anew in the ERGP and E1 Championship. For a relative newcomer into sim racing, Inigo did well in the 2021 ERGP, competing in the gold class, finishing in the top 5 in all but one round of the 5-round series. Inigo finished 4th in the first round, which was run on simulation of the Red Bull Ring, 5th in round 2 on Hockenheim Ring, 6th in round 3 at Watkins Glen, 2nd in round 4, and finally 5th in round 5 on Circuit Zandvoort. He finished 4th overall for the season. Inigo drove for GT Radial Eurasia team along with Joaquin Garrido in Season 0 of the E1 Championship. He finished 4th overall, while the team finished 5th overall. Both team and driver are back for the 2021 E1 Championship, Season 1, for 8 rounds. This year, the team isn't performing to expectations.
Coming from last season, which was Season 0, and then now it's Season 1, I would say our team was very happy with the result since it was our first venture into sim racing as a team. So, coming from that, we decided to take the same approach coming into Season 1. But Season 1, though, didn't start as well as Season 0 did. And I would think the main thing was that the other team stepped up their game a lot. We were still playing a little bit of catch up, but at the end, we were still, on pace. We had to catch up in mostly tire wear and team in race strategy, which was where we were lacking.
The second half of 2021 may soon see some real racing events happening, and Inigo is excited by the prospect. Already, he has participated in training program held by Tuason Racing in preparation for the holding of the Vios Cup later in the year.
I was just very excited to, get back into a real car. For what I joined last week was that it's actually the level 1 and level 2 program of Tuason's Racing School to get into the Vios Cup. So knowing that, we decided that with our team of vendors who picked me up for this year's Vios Cup, which I'm very excited for, we decided that, of course, to be in Vios Cup, we have to go through this racing school, through this level 1 and level 2. And even though it wasn't a race, or it was just it wasn't a full-blown practice session that you could just drive around the whole racetrack as much as you want, just being back in a car, after a race car, especially after so long, I was just so happy to be there.
Inigo is looking forward to his first foray into circuit racing.
For this season in Vios Cup, it's gonna be my first circuit racing. Of course, that I've been just doing a lot of slalom and autocross these past years because I wasn't old enough to be joining circuit races yet. But now that I am of legal age to drive in these circuit races, I am super excited to see what the action is of side-by-side racing. I've never really had the experience except for karting, but it's still very different. But at least in sim racing, hopefully I can manage to transfer all the things that I've learned on how to race in terms of racecraft, overtaking, and defending. And yeah, I just can't wait to see how it pans out.
Inigo plans to focus more on the Vios Cup in the second half of the year, but he will still be looking to participate in sim races and events when possible.
For sim racing as a whole, it's been an amazing thing to happen for everybody who's into cars and who's into racing. And I'd like to advise everybody who's into cars and who wants to try racing to just try and join virtual races and sim racing. It doesn't need to be really professional or very competitive. There's a lot of leagues, and a lot of just public races that people can join every day day in and day out. And you don't have to be discouraged if you're just starting off and you're off the pace, because with just practice and constant just improvement, you'll eventually get there. Some people reach the highest level really quickly, some take a long time, but as long as you enjoy what you're doing, you could just always try it out.
Anton is showing that his on-track racing skills and aptitude can be transferred to racing in the digital world. As he improves his e-racing skills, will this help him when racing on the track resumes? We expect to see the answer later in the year.